Hi, good morning. I'm Anna Carugati. I'm the Group Editorial Director of WorldScreen. I'm delighted to be here this morning with Adriana Cisneros. She is the Vice Chairman and Director of Strategy for the Cisneros Group of companies. Welcome,
Hi,
Adriana.
good morning.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
The Cisneros Group of companies, as I'm sure you all know, is one of the world's largest privately owned media, entertainment, television, and consumer products company. So that's a lot of area to cover. However, for the purposes of NATPE, today we're going to be talking principally about programming, the digital world, and how viewers today and technology are really changing the business so very, very quickly that it's making it challenging to keep after viewers' tastes. But that's something that your company and you have been doing quite well. So I thought we would start right there. What have you learned about how viewers want to enjoy programming today? Because long gone are the days of the couch potatoes with the remote control and only one screen. Now we have multiple screens, multiple ways of enjoying content. And have you noticed that there are big differences between audience behavior in Venezuela, where your company has a network, and in other countries in Latin America, or even within the Hispanic market here in the States?
Yeah, I think the primary shift that has occurred is that the viewer now wants a personalized experience. Social TV, the whole social TV movement is a big part of that. While they're watching TV, they want to be able to interact with it. They want their friends to know what they're thinking and what they're doing regarding that program. And the implication of that change in behavior is great. It means that you can no longer just produce a show and put it on the air. It means that you have to create a whole world for that show so that its interactive presence is interesting. It goes beyond, asking people to comment on a show through Facebook. It's more about what material you can make attractive and sexy that will be complementary to what they're seeing in the screen. We had a very interesting experience with our last program that we did in Venezuela called La Viuda Joven, the Black Widow. And it was sort of a murder mystery program, and the interactive strategy was there to drive the content itself. So on the interactive strategy, we kept releasing clues and all sort of this original material that was going to help you as a viewer try to identify who the murderer had been, and all these special clues that would give you more insight into the program itself. So that's how we're doing things. It's integrating social media, but also creating content that's very specifically designed for interactivity.
Right, and they're responding quite well, aren't they?
They're responding quite well. The question about Venezuela versus Latin America and the U.S. is very interesting. I think we're very fortunate that we have a very strong and creative office in Venezuela. Venezuela is a country that is very interactive. We rank 3rd in the world in terms of penetration for Twitter, 8th for Facebook. So Venezuelans spend a lot of time online. And we spend a lot more time online than Americans do, and that many Europeans or Asians do. And that's kind of true for the rest of Latin America as well. In countries like Chile, for example, where there's higher internet penetration, Facebook has 90% penetration. So what we've done is say, wow, this is an interesting phenomenon. How can we use it to really understand what's going on? And we test out all of our social interactive strategies in Venezuela through the programming that we're producing there, so we have full control of the whole experience. And it's those lessons learned that we then take to the material that we're producing in the U.S. for the U.S. Hispanic population. And that strategy is proving correctly. In Latin America, we seem to be ahead of the curve in terms of pushing for interactivity and content, which is a really nice advantage to have.
And that's interesting because over the years it's often been the United States that comes up with a trend or something that then spreads beyond its borders, but you're actually taking things from Venezuela and Latin America and bringing them to the U.S.
We are. Yeah. We are. I think Eva Luna is, which was the big news of last year's NATPE, was the great example of how we took those lessons learned from Venezuela and applied them here. And it's a way of working in a more integrated fashion. I think, obviously Latin Americans and the U.S. Hispanic population are also very quick adopters of new technologies. The numbers are very interesting for us. So we're thrilled to be able to have the tools to play in the digital field right now.
Right, and don't correct me if I'm wrong. The U.S. Hispanic market, they also over-index in mobile too, right? So that opens up other possibilities.
Yeah, so it's interesting. going back to Latin America, in terms of internet penetration, so Latin America in general has like a 37% internet penetration versus 70% in the States. But in between 2009 and 2010, that grew by 15% versus 8% worldwide or 3% in the US. So obviously it's growing very quickly. The number that is most interesting is that 100% of people in Latin America have access to mobile phones. So that obviously for anybody in the media world in Latin America has to be part of the strategy. In the U.S. Hispanic market, it's a little different because the U.S. Hispanic market is within the United States. So penetration is higher and so forth, but Hispanics are spending much more time online than the rest of the population, and we're doing a lot more transactions online. For the Spanish-speaking world, the advertising, what was spent on advertising was about $2 billion last year, and we're estimating that it's going to go up to about $4.5 billion in the next year or two, which is why we launched a digital advertising agency called Red Más that is there just to target the Spanish-speaking world through digital advertising. So it's a really interesting time for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we can spend some time on Eva Luna for a minute. You're offering it on digital platforms, and I think we want to run a clip because then you want to talk a little bit more about what in specific you offered viewers and what you learned from that experience.
The clip that we prepared, it's actually on La Viuda Joven, which is called the Black Widow in English, and it's our latest production out of Venezuela. And it's going to show, the clip is there to show sort of our interactive approach to content and the way that we're going about business these days. So if you could run that.
The Black Widow, a success beyond the TV screen.
Ingmar von Parker tiene la muerte en sí. Es un demonio hecho mujer. Atrápala.
In Venezuela, after its launch on TV, The Black Widow became a huge success in the online world, both in social media and on our website, www.univision.com. Every day, millions follow this intriguing story on the web, increasing its popularity and making it one of our most highest-rated novellas. Our strategy aimed to capture the audience's interest in the story by generating exclusive content for the web and by leveraging the mystery and intrigue that was inherent in the story. Another appealing part of our strategy was to provide online access to complete episodes and backstage footage 24 hours after they aired. Captivated fans watched each scene repeatedly, trying to identify clues which would give away who the killer was.
Si la baronesa es inocente, ¿quién es el culpable, por Dios?
They also had the opportunity to view in-character interviews with the actors. These interviews were made exclusively for the web. Special features such as searching for clues, likely suspects, and killers generated such a buzz that it immediately mobilized social media, proving once again that fans who were mesmerized by the emotive suspense of the story felt a great need to communicate and interact with the community. As proof of the success that can be achieved when a good story on TV is complemented by a carefully planned social media and online campaign, The Black Widow had more than 145,000 daily visits on the last day. In average of 775,000 monthly visits, and more than 7 million video views. In social media alone, our digital strategy also proved highly engaging.
Pues tú me manipulaste y me engañaste.
Quiero tenerte cerca aunque me odies.
Fue la pura joven que mató a Peggy. Yo sé que fue ella.
On Facebook, 145,000 users became fans of the Black Widow's page, following the story each night and fueling the intrigue. More than 137,000 Twitter users engaged with our stories, which represented an unprecedented 16% of all Twitter followers in Venezuela. Twitter users followed our tweets, tweeted, and retweeted. Our hashtags topics became trending topics during many days, and the Black Widow became part of the national conversation.
¿Quién es la viuda María?
La misericordia no existe.
In fact, we achieved 8 of the top 10 most commented topics during the airing of the last episode and the days immediately afterwards.
¿Quién es el asesino que persiguió todo este tiempo? Tú no puedes ser.
This success has been a great innovation in the marketplace, one which we continue to apply to our programming. Today, all the content produced by Univision follows this social TV strategy. So this is how The Black Widow became an unprecedented case study. The novella with the greatest impact in social media and definitely a success beyond the TV screen.
Wow. Those are impressive numbers for one show, and certainly it followed. Eva Luna sort of was the test ground, so to speak, or was the
Eva
first?
Luna was our coming out party.
Okay.
And this has been the evolution. I think it's now, we went from a sort of a phase of experimenting to now believing that we have a really good formula. It has to continue to evolve, obviously, because that's in the nature of social media itself. But we feel that we're doing something that's at the forefront of entertainment. Part of what we do now is that we don't just have this whole strategy in Venezuela. The moment that we sell this program to any of the 100 countries where our program has been seen, we sell them the whole package. We sell them the strategy of how to create this sort of interactive world so that, you know, the ratings in those countries can be as successful as they were in Venezuela.
Right. And just, I'm sure everyone in the audience knows, but just to clarify, there you have a network in Venezuela, and then you have the production and distribution businesses, and they're all called
Univision. Yeah.
Univision,
So
right.
our network was actually started by my grandfather 50 years ago. We're celebrating, as of last year, we were celebrating our 50 years on the air. And that's where it all began. We produce a lot of content in Venezuela. We also have production studios in Miami. And we produce and sell and distribute our content worldwide. We're in more than 100 countries, more than 24 languages. We've had a lot of success this year in countries like Iran and Afghanistan, which is great, and it's a new market for us.
Excellent. Okay. Let's look at the U.S. Hispanic market for a minute. Broadly, and then we'll get into specifics, what opportunities do you see here? I mean, certainly the census 2 years ago showed the size and the prowess of the market.
Listen, you know, the U.S. Hispanic market's, it's 55 million strong. And we at Cisneros really believe that we understand what this market is really about. It's not about the race that we are, it's not about the color of the skin, it's not even about the language that we speak. It's about the culture that we have created for ourselves here. And that's what we cater to. There's a very interesting, obviously we're going to continue producing content, you know, for Univision, which are great partners. Our content does very well on their screen. We were the first ones that were able to give them the ability to do product integration to tap into the U.S. Hispanic population, which was very successful idea, and it's something that we're going to continue doing closely with them. We're also looking to evolve from that a bit. I think we're considering very seriously to start doing content in English that will appeal to the general population, but also have a hook into the U.S. Hispanic population, sort of the Sofia Vergara phenomena, which is, you know, fabulous. I think she's done such an amazing job at just luring us all into the world of Hispanics. I think there's a new business venture that we're looking into. I want to set up digital studios so that we can actually start creating content that from the get-go, its only intention is to be available online for the online population. I think we're going to do that in Spanish to address the U.S. Hispanic and also Latin American audience, but we're probably going to start doing that in English as well. And I think it's not the new frontier, it's the present, and we have to be a part of that. We have a lot of presence. We have YouTube channels. We have a lot of traffic. We put a lot of our content online. But this is going to be sort of a very tailor-made online. You know, I want to be the maker studio of the Spanish-speaking world, or Machinima, or, you know, Yahoo Studios. Why not?
Right. And certainly producing in English also helps you reach the second or third generation of Hispanic families whose young kids are bicultural, bilingual.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when people approach me to understand this phenomenon of the U.S. Hispanic market. They say, but what do you do? Is it Spanish? Is it English? Is it Spanglish? And I say, listen, you have to be okay with the fact that it's all of that. Don't try to come up with a very narrow-minded formula. It's an evolving population, and I like the idea that I should be producing in Spanish for the days that I prefer to see TV in Spanish, and in English for the days that I prefer to see TV in English. And I think that's the way that you have to go about it. We can't be too strict about the way that we define Hispanics.
You can't pigeonhole them either.
Nope.
Right. And you mentioned, of course, the launch of the new advertising agency. That's another big thing for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's our newest venture. We're very excited. We launched it just before the end of 2011. I think there's great potential for it. It seemed like a very obvious move for us to get into. And we launched it first for the U.S. Hispanic market. We're going to be rolling out into Latin America in the next quarter. And it seems like a very good idea. So we'll wait until next year, NATPE, to see how we did.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned your partnership with Univision. So you provide a substantial amount of programming to them, and those novellas perform well on Univision, right?
They perform incredibly well. Our relationship with Univision it's very interesting. We went from being the founders of Univision, my father and Emilio Azcárraga Sr. And Jerry Parenchio were the three guys that decided to create this channel for the U.S. Hispanic market. And then we sold Univision a couple years back, but we still produce content for them. And we've always been content providers for Univision. It's great to be partners with them. They're the leading Hispanic channel in the U.S. By far. It looks like we're going to have competition now for Murdoch with this announcement this morning, but competition's good. And the programming that we do does extremely well on primetime with our soaps. We also do, the best programming that they have with talk shows and variety shows. So.
Excellent. So you see that relationship continuing
Absolutely.
going forward. Looking beyond the U.S. borders, tell us a little bit about, you said 100 countries the Univision programming is being sold to, and it's being equally well accepted?
Yes. We sold our first soap in 1960, I think.
Wow.
Somebody can correct me on the right date, but it was a long time ago when we were just a Venezuelan media network, and that's pretty cool, I think. And we always had a lot of success. I think having our content do well internationally always pushes us. We have this tension between either doing content that's very localized or doing content that is very international. And you don't want to do either too much because you don't want to dilute the effect that it could have. So we're always pushing ourselves to find the formula to really have a feeling for what's going on worldwide in terms of what the consumer wants to be watching on TV, how they're going to react to certain storylines, to even the way that we're dressing our actresses and the way that we're writing our scripts. So it has forced us to always be a very international thinking media company.
From the very beginning.
From the get-go, yeah.
That was the thing that your father really wanted to give the company, right?
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah. And I read there was a partnership with CCTV in China recently for documentaries. China's also an important territory.
Yeah, listen, China is important. I think a lot of people are scared of China. It's big and it's far away and it's complicated. But you can't be like that. I think it's just a matter, it's not whether you want to work in China or not. It's a matter of how you're going to integrate China into your daily life. And we believe that. We've been working with them, I think, for about a decade with our content. It does well there. The latest venture is for documentaries and more sort of a cultural exchange experience that they're interested in. But we also, the Miss Venezuela, for example, just aired in CCTV a month ago, and it had very, very high ratings. So what I would like to do is to be the one that organizes Miss China, but we'll see if we can get there.
Okay. You mentioned product integration before. You were also early to the game at this. Sort of what have you learned from it, and where do you see this going? Is it something that is going to become more and more, as the 30-second spot perhaps is a little bit challenged by fragmentation in the market and viewers watching everywhere?
Yeah, I think product integration is definitely the way to go for both. I would say for both traditional stuff that you see on TV and very much so for digital content. I think Eva Luna itself, the way that we approach product integration was very advanced, and that will continue to evolve. It's sort of seamless product integration because we offer we control the whole sequence of events that happens to produce a show. We have the ability to really be able to introduce and integrate products in a very smart way. I think there's companies in the US that have done an amazing job and have been the ones that have set up the bar so high. You know, everything that comes out of Radical Media is branded and integrated. And that's the sort of stuff that we want to be able to do for the Hispanic market. Advertisers are finally realizing the potential of the US Hispanic market, and it's what they want, and we want to give them the best.
Yeah. There is starting to be more crossover, right? Advertisers who are only general population now seeing the advantages that they get of advertising in Spanish.
Exactly.
Right. CGC, Cisneros Group of Companies, has not only been active in media and entertainment and telecommunications and consumer products. Beer, right, is one of the things.
Yep.
Yep. I've always wondered, we live in difficult times. There are lots of problems in many countries, and governments in various countries are often hard-pressed to do as much as we think they should be doing to serve their citizens. Do you, and I think your father has felt this before you, should the business world step in certain cases where they see that governments just can't reach certain services?
Definitely. You know, we started our foundation 35 years ago, and it's a foundation in the Latin American sense, not in the endowment American sense. So we actually create and run educational programs. The sole basis of the foundation is this idea that my parents had 35 years ago, where they said we have to focus on education to make it more accessible, because that ultimately is the best tool that we'll have at hand to lessen that gap between the poor and the rich in Latin America. It all comes down to access to education. Our programs are available pan-regionally, so from Mexico all the way down to the South Pole, we're running our 3 programs. And in order to be successful, you have to work with the Ministry of Education in every country. You have to have agreement with the governments, especially since most of our programs run on technological platforms. You have to be able to guarantee access. And I think the most valuable thing that we can do is to persuade a government to look at best practices that are coming from the private sector. You know, if we've done it and it's worked, they should be able to learn from that and to explain to them that we're here to help them. It's beneficial for all of us to have a better educated continent. You know, and on the other side, you know, that's how things began 35 years ago, but we believe in doing good. We believe in giving back to the community that has given us everything that we have. And frankly, it's the only way that we know how to do business. Doing good is good for business.
Doing good. And I know, so education and sustainability are 2 of the areas where you've been strong. And tell us a little bit about the programs that you offer.
It's an interesting year for us. We've been running 3 educational programs for a while. AME, which is a teacher training program for online education. We noticed that part of the reason so many kids were never graduating high school in Latin America was because they weren't getting enough from their teachers. And teachers, if they were lucky to have graduated from a teacher's college, were never going back to update their methods and so forth. So we created a program that teaches teachers how to be better teachers, starting with very basic subjects like how to be a better math teacher or a better Spanish teacher. But it's evolved into courses like conflict resolution, how to be a good headmaster at a school, HIV prevention, a new one on entrepreneurship. And we develop all of these programs with associations with 8 different universities in the States and in Latin America. Then we have Clase, which is an online educational channel. It was the first, when we launched it, it was the first pan-regional educational channel in Spanish for a very long time. It's sort of a PBS, I guess. But it's aimed at kids, parents, and teachers, and it's integrated into our teacher training platform as well. And then we have Piensa en Arte, which is Think Art, which is a course that uses art to help kids develop their cognitive capabilities. So to actually have an opinion that's well-formed and think for themselves. Those programs have been doing very well for 10 years, but the world has changed, again, through access to technology and penetration of the internet. So we're taking a step back, And for the entire next 18 months, we're actually developing a new portal, the Cisneros Portal for Education. And these 3 programs are going to be fully integrated into one technological platform, and all the content is going to be available online, which is exciting. And I think it's the new frontier. If you see sort of the phenomena of like Khan University, Khan Academy, and how it's being integrated into the lives of all of our kids, you have a 14-year-old, right? So that must be a part of what she does. That's the way we have to do it. It's a great tool. So we're going to be rethinking and relaunching the Cisneros portal very soon.
And do you see making this available outside of Latin America? Because as the parent of an American student, her teachers could certainly use some help.
No, absolutely. And we've been approached. Harvey Klein, from New York, approached us to see if we could make our programs available for the U.S. Hispanic population, for the teachers teaching the U.S. Hispanic population. And I feel like there's definitely been a move at a lot of the public schools to have programs in Spanish, Chinese, and in English. And there'll be room for us there if they feel like they need our help. Absolutely.
Good. A little bit about you. So you grew up with your father, who was heading this big company. Obviously, talk about work must have been something that you heard in the home. When did you first become interested in working at CGC?
I was always interested. I think I was always fascinated by what both my parents did, probably because I was the youngest one. I used to sort of hang out with them a lot, and I spent endless hours walking the hallways of Univision, and I think I knew everything about how to produce a single scene for a soap opera from the time I was 8 years old. I didn't think I would start working for them so young. I thought it was something that would happen a little later. I'm happy that it happened when I was 25. I have so much to learn. It requires so much energy. It's a big team. It's a big company. And in a way now, it seems like it was the only thing that I was meant to do in life. I can't see myself working anywhere else or doing anything else.
Okay. And how you've been at the helm of the company, what, a little more than a year now, right? Or a year and a half?
Yes, about that.
How's it been?
It's been great. I have a lot of fun. And of course, the days are long and the problems are big, but the rewards are enormous. I have a great team. They're all here. They've been extremely supportive in helping us, do this transition between my father and I. And my father has been a big part of that. I think he's the one that's having the most fun. So it's a really nice working environment, and I'm really excited about the next 10 years.
Okay, I feel comfortable asking you this as a woman who grew up in Italy, which is another Latin culture. I think the question begs to be asked sort of, as a woman at the helm of a major media company in Latin America, how has that been? And how far have we progressed?
I know,
in
it's
certain
funny.
areas?
People like asking me that question. My answer is kind of boring. The woman thing has never been an issue. I was raised in a family where my parents had equal expectations for me, my sister, and my brother in terms of academics, jobs, family, etc. We were told, though, that it was important to be well-balanced and that having a great job was as important as being a good mom and being a good wife. And I think that's something that I really try to balance out. And then when I started working in our company, it was the same thing. The woman issue was never an issue. Maybe because in Venezuela, at one point, we were the country that had the most female CEOs per capita in the world. I'm sure somebody's going to study what that phenomena was all about in the 80s. But I guess, all the people I work with, that's the Venezuela that they grew up in. So the woman issue is a non-issue.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming today. Thank you very much.